It is your boy T with another Have You Seen That with T movie review, and today we are reviewing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. How do we get here, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of, cinema's classics. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, another classic. And then my personal favorite, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We got a red hot Sean Connery coming and playing Indiana Jones' dad, and that ended the Indiana Jones trilogy, right? And it ended on such a high note. The Last Crusade was amazing. One of my favorite movies growing up. And then, 20 years later, we get Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull and the Adventures of the Crystal Skull, whatever it was called. And it lost its luster, right? It was a CGI mess. It was, Indiana Jones. It was like an atomic bomb went off and he was in a refrigerator, and there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was a character named Mutt, played by Shia LaBeouf, and it just didn't work, right? So James Mangold, George Lucas, they decided they wanted to right that wrong and make a final Indiana Jones movie. And after watching this Indiana Jones movie, I wish they didn't make a final Indiana Jones movie. I wish they would have just left the series where it was, because at the end of this 2 hour and 30-minute mess of a movie, I had the question asked in my head, why did they make this movie? Right? In the Crystal Skull was a financial hit. It was a critical flop. And no, it wasn't a financial hit because people went and saw it because they wanted to recapture that magic. And that movie simply didn't. This movie simply didn't recapture that magic to me. Um, it just looked like there was this 80 plus 90-year-old guy walking around, and every step he took looked real painful, right? And instead of slowing the action down and making it a more slower paced movie, they tried to ramp the action up, and it just didn't work for me, right? Seeing this old guy survive some perilous situations. In the trailer, they have the one scene where he's walking around and he starts whipping people inside of a he was in an auction, and all these criminals were there, and he starts swinging his whip around, and everybody stops and everybody pulls out a gun. And all I kept thinking of is, like, one, they're like this close to him, and somehow he ducks in time for every single human being, probably 20 people pointing guns at him. He manages to not get shot. That's a dichotomy this entire movie. Like, there's a lot of action set pieces that simply don't make any sense. Like the vehicles that they're riding on, there's a scene where he's on a horse going through a train station. It just, none of it made any sense, right? This was not a Fast and the Furious suspending your disbelief type movie. This movie just was utterly ridiculous, right? There's a lot of the callback characters just, the one callback character just didn't feel right. We had Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She comes in, she plays his goddaughter, and her character just felt out of place in this movie to me. It just didn't work. And just on the timing of the movie, right? They really need to stop making these 2.5 hour epic movies out of movies that could be a tight 90 minutes of just like bang, bang, bang action sequences, some adventure, some peril. Get out of there and everybody's happy, right? At 2.5 hours, like, I looked at my watch. Anytime I'm in a movie theater and I start looking at my watch because the movie is just slugging on, that's a problem, right? We're making these epic movies, right? These quote unquote epic movies that are 2.5 hours, 3 hours, when you could really tighten it up and make a really tight movie at about an hour and a half, hour 45, and cut out some of the filler stuff that just doesn't work. A lot of the stuff in this movie just didn't work for me, right? That inner kid who fell in love with Indiana Jones just saw this old, dilapidated man who just couldn't keep up anymore. And maybe that was the whole premise. Maybe time catches up with everyone. It was a whole gag about time. And the villain, the antagonist, Michael Mickelson or Mads Mikkelsen, he was fantastic. Like everything he's ever in, I always just think he's awesome. Right? He's a great villain. He's a great actor, and he was great in this movie. But the rest of the movie just Indiana, there's always some kid involved. Like everybody has this kid sidekick, which I find really weird. But it just didn't work for me. It could have been better. It wasn't the worst movie I've seen this year. It wasn't, it was better than Crystal Skull. I could say that. It was better than Crystal Skull, but it just wasn't, living up to par. They really should have ended with The Last Crusade. Like we could have really done without any more Indiana Jones movies. It's okay to recast some of these characters, right? If you want to keep them young and going on these swashbuckling adventures, recast the movie. You did it for Spider-Man, you did it for Superman, you've done it for James Bond, you've done it for all of these characters. Recast the movie and just keep it going. Just cast the right guy, right? We saw the guy who got cast in the Han Solo movie. I thought he was good. I thought he did a really good job. But a lot of people didn't. A lot of people are holding on nostalgia, but these nostalgia trips, man, these movies are not getting any better. Seeing these guys in their 80s and 90s, it just isn't cool. Like it really isn't. One of the early scenes in the movie was like one of those get off my lawn moments where he's just this old guy yelling at young kids. I mean, if that's what y'all want to see, fine by me. But I would highly suggest not to spend your money to go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's not really worth your time. But don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say T didn't warn you when you go there and you just spend 2.5 hours watching some old guy running around looking kind of crazy. But once again, I will leave you with these words. Don't say I didn't warn you.